Relatives of the hostages stormed Israel's parliament today, demanding government action to bring the hostages home. They say time is running out. Netanyahu did meet with some relatives today, but he's refused to budge on the proposed hostage deal, saying it wasn't actually even real. Joining us now is Israeli journalist and Reichman University media lecturer Yael Lavie, with whom I worked in Israel many, many years, and Omer Metzger, who survived the attack on kibbutz Nir Oz and whose grandfather is still being held hostage in the Gaza Strip. Omer, I'd like to start with you. Your mom and dad were part of those protests today that we just saw that video of in the Knesset. Police took your mother in. They say they're being treated like the enemy here.
Actually, my mom was taken in by the police because they blocked a road next to Tel Aviv. But I would say that it is a shame that our country holds us back when we're asking them to help us get the hostages back home.
When you hear your grandfather is still being held hostage, you are praying, I'm sure, every day that he's still alive. When you hear Netanyahu flat out reject any sort of deal that would secure their release, what's your reaction?
I just don't feel secure that my government actually wants to free the hostages in any cost and putting them on top of the list of, the targets, like what they're trying to achieve in this war.
Yeah, your family just found out that your grandfather's DNA was found in a newly discovered Hamas tunnel.
Yeah.
So what does that mean for you? Does that give you hope that he's still alive?
I know that he's still alive. I know that. I'm sure of it. And we already known about this tunnel from my grandmother that came back a few weeks ago. But seeing this place just shows, the conditions that they've been at, which are terrible. Like you can see how easily diseases can grow there and how they don't have places for food. It looks like the cells, like it looks like prison.
Yeah.
So, and it's underground. They don't have enough air. Everything is just, it's not a condition that elderly or children or anyone can actually stay at for such a long time.
Yael, when we look at that video of those furious families storming the Knesset today, there's a poll out right now. 59% of Israelis think that Benjamin Netanyahu is not negotiating in their interest, but in his own self-interest in trying to stay out of prison and stay in power.
If you had taken that poll, if you take that poll tomorrow, it's probably going to reach 70. At this point, Benjamin Netanyahu, irrespective of what he puts out to the world internally, he's really standing on his last legs, especially after the interview that you mentioned of a cabinet member, Eisenkot, former chief of staff. You have to remember, Israelis are very connected to the military legacy. Everybody serves in the military. This is a man who's in the war cabinet and just lost a son. He lost his young son in Gaza 2 weeks ago, and he has said from within the cabinet that the Israeli prime minister is lying to the Israeli people.
So wait. Benjamin Netanyahu's, a member of his own emergency government, has gone out publicly and said Netanyahu's lying.
Exactly like that on primetime Israeli TV on a show similar to 60 Minutes. Now, Eisenkot is people, if you're looking at Israeli media today, right after that interview, are saying that if anybody's going to pull out of that cabinet and try to start some sort of a move of bringing the government down, it's going to be Eisenkot. Because he sat there and said, listen, we're lying to the Israeli people. We cannot beat Hamas and bring the hostages back. Those are two missions that cannot work together. So that needs to be said to the Israeli public.
So where is Israeli public sentiment right now? If they have to choose between killing Hamas, destroying Hamas, and bringing their hostages home?
It's a very good question, because we have to understand Israelis are war, savvy soldiers who believe that when there's war, then they need to unite together. But 3 months into this war, with soldiers, Israeli soldiers, and again, I'm not making comparisons, but when it comes to the number of Israeli soldiers being lost, approximately between 1 to 10 a week, that's not something he can sustain. I would, I'm not making any predictions, but I would say that come mid-February, if this continues, and definitely if there's no deal or half a deal to bring the hostages back, then demonstrations will get much bigger in Israel. There's a feeling that it's about to blow, and there will be a demand that the government disband.
Omer, I've just got to ask you, how do you and your parents hang on waiting for word. I can't even imagine what it's been like for you and your family waiting all this time and wondering how your grandfather is faring in the tunnels of Gaza.
We don't hang on. We fight every day. Every day, my mom is in protest. Every day, my mom is screaming. Every day, my dad is trying to, be with my grandmother and help her. And she's also like trying to heal right now and in a hospital. And everything is just so chaotic. Nothing is normal right now. So
Omer,
there's no hanging on.
if you could say anything to Benjamin Netanyahu right now, what would you say to him?
I would say to him that it is a shame that my grandparents didn't came back much sooner, and that my grandfather is still there, and so many other innocent civilians are still held in Gaza, and that I think that he needs to do anything that is in his power to bring them back home as soon as possible, because time is so important here.
And you know what, Yael, as you said, the more casualties stack up from Israeli forces fighting in Gaza, the more erosion of public support there will be and more outrage there will be directed toward Netanyahu.
Completely. Definitely so. And especially, look, there are several reports, unconfirmed right now in Israel, that today was a very bloody day in Gaza for the IDF. And you've already seen in several, funerals that are happening in Israel daily when it comes to Israeli mothers. And just a quick reminder, the Lebanon war was done back in 2000 because a group called Four Mothers demonstrated for several months. And I do think that we're going to see something similar with Israeli parents and mothers coming out in the next several weeks, much more in force, to demand something change with the government policy.
Yael Lavie, it's great to have you here. Thanks for lending us your expertise. Omer, thank you once again for coming on the show. We continue to pray for you and your family, and most especially your grandfather, truly.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.